Hello, Dr. Frankie here, and I'm super excited to be here with you all today because this is the first time I'm relaunching my podcast, and I have an amazing co-host who will be introducing herself shortly here. But our podcast is Loves, Laughs, and Lessons, and this series right now is going to focus on speaking with matchmakers from all over the world, and mostly the United States. And we're going to learn what's happening behind the scenes. So thrilled to be here. And just to say a little bit about myself, I'm Dr. Frankie. I'm the CEO of Little Gay Book. I'm also the CEO of Little Black Book Matchmaking. I am a clinical psychologist, a board certified sex therapist, and a dating and relationship expert, and a matchmaker that's been matchmaking for a decade and a half professionally, and longer than that. I started matchmaking as a kid, basically, but as a professional, and it's been my career since 2009. So that's enough about me. What about you, Denise?
Hey, I'm Denise Rai, and I am also a matchmaker and relationship coach. I started my matchmaking career probably 17 years ago after a failed divorce, and that's another story. But I've been in the industry and happy to be working with Dr. Frankie as her client service director for Little Gay Book and Little Black Book. And you know what? We're happy to have a special guest here today. Her name is Paula Pardel. And Paula has always loved connecting with people since back in 2018. She saw an ad for matchmaking and knew like that this was going to be like her claim to fame. That matchmaking company that she worked with went out of business, but Paula stuck with it. She jumped in, she opened up Bloom Matchmaking, and it is totally all love. So welcome, Paula. We're happy to have you. Tell us a little bit about you.
Oh gosh, that tells a lot about me. I'm here in Virginia, and yes, I love matchmaking. It's an exciting thing to do. It's very rewarding. Of course, we all know it's not all hearts and flowers all the time, but when we get it right, it makes all the hard work worth it.
So true.
And what's your specialty? Who do you work with specifically?
I generally work with like professional people, successful people, entrepreneurs, people that are successful in their life, but they don't, there's something missing, that special person. So I help them find that. And as far as age ranges, when I first started, I figured I'd get a lot of divorcee, middle-aged people. And of course, that's a lot of who I work with. But as things have progressed, I'm working with a lot more younger people that are just sick of the games, and they're like, okay, I'm done, I need help. And that's when they call me.
What's their biggest complaint about dating today that you hear?
Well, all the craziness going on in the apps, not being able to find someone who's true, who's honest, who's dating with intention. I think a lot of us matchmakers, we talk a lot about that. What are your intentions? Do your intentions align with what I'm looking for? And unfortunately, people aren't always honest about those things. And I believe that people are a little scared, because it isn't, it can be unsafe, but I can't discount the apps totally, because people have found love on the apps, but you just have to be careful. And it is hard. People want me to take it over for them. Like being their dating assistant, so they don't have to deal with that. And I screen people, I do background checks. You're not going to go on a date with someone that I've set you up with, and they're not the person that, I had portrayed them to be.
Yeah, safety is number one. And I think that you're right about that. That has been the biggest complaint, people worried about their safety, and they should. So for you, Paula, when you're matching people, what do you look for? What are the three most important compatibility, let's say, foundational qualities that you're looking for when you put people together?
Well, I think people need to be open-minded about, what their deal breakers are and what they're looking for. A lot of us put, in our profiles and things like this, oh, he or she's got to be 6 foot tall, they got to make this much money, they got to do this, they got to do that. But just because someone's good on paper doesn't mean you're going to be good. He's a good person or she's a good person, or you're going to be good together. You have to vibe with that person. And of course, those things are very important. We're trying to get those things, but I think, you have to look for the deeper things that are really going to make a relationship work. I've never heard someone say that, oh my gosh, thank God I married that 6'3" guy because he turned out to be a great husband, because he was tall.
Right.
You can reach out. That's always that's a perk, but that's not going to make your relationship last. And the ageism and things like that. So trying to get people over those things and trying to find out what is really important, what does a good, healthy relationship look like to them, having them envision that, I guess. I hope that answered your question. I might have went a little off topic.
No, you definitely, you stated some of the important things to consider, which it's not so much on the surface. I feel like people are really we can be sort of superficial and surfacey, and that's not gonna give us longevity. If the person's not a kind person, a loyal person, honest communicator, and they're super hot, that super hotness is gonna fade fairly quickly.
Right.
So
I tell them the story. You can meet someone that's just knockout gorgeous, and you're just like, oh my gosh. But then you start to speak to that person, their beauty is dwindling as they speak more and more.
right.
And then also you can meet someone and you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure if there was any chemistry there. I just don't know if he's my type. Like, well, and then sometimes you talk to those people, and they just get more attractive because they're a good person, their values align with you, and you have a lot in common with them.
Well, you just touched on something that actually comes up a lot in my work, which is people, it's twofold. One is they're chasing a spark. They're wanting that fireworks, sparks, right? Connection. And if that's not there, they think that, oh, this isn't the right person for them. And that maybe I'll hold on to my next question because I don't want to bombard you. But what are your thoughts about that? Do you hear that from people where they're looking for that spark, even though there seems to be compatibility on paper, but if they don't feel that chemical attraction off the bat on the first date, they're sort of like, that person's not for me.
Yeah, I guess the way I go about talking about that is, sometimes when we get those sparks right off the bat, it does something to our brain. I don't care who we are. You could be running a corporation. It does it to everybody. You're not thinking straight. You want the person to like you. You're all googly eyes and you're not thinking, with your brain. And also sometimes when the slower an attraction grows and the sparks start to grow, that tends to last a lot longer, because those hot fires burn out quick. We all know, we know that feeling. It is a wonderful feeling, but it is, we lose a little bit of control. So, but who knows? You could meet somebody and it lasts forever. You have the sparks off the bat, but don't discount someone and let the sparks grow.
That's so true. That's so true. In my own relationship, there wasn't that immediate spark and I was matched. So I'm like, and when I'm matching, I always use that story. It did not happen that way. I was not like, oh my gosh. And he was 6'4". So, so the height thing was there, but the spark wasn't. But after some time of really getting to know him and interacting, then, I saw him in a different light. So like spot on about that. So true.
So it can grow. That's my belief. If one is open to the possibility of an attraction growing and isn't dead set on, oh, if it's not there in an instant, it's never going to develop, then actually there's room for growth. There's room for developing connection and chemistry. But I find that there are some clients of mine that are convinced that for them, it's never, ever grown. That either it's there or it's not there. So I find myself as a matchmaker and, a relationship expert, I find myself sometimes like really feeling challenged by those ideas.
Yeah, it is hard. And some people, it doesn't matter what you say, they're going to believe what they believe, but we're just here to coach them and make suggestions. Like, I would suggest this, but, we can't force people to do what we think is right.
Which leads us to the next question, right? Like what makes a good matchmaking client? Because I feel like matchmaking is not, it's sort of not that, people aren't that familiar. They don't have a point of reference. A lot of people have never worked with a matchmaker and they don't have an idea of how to be a good matchmaking client. What's your idea? I have ideas and I certainly.
Yeah, a big one is them communicating to you about who they are, what they want, and having emotional intelligence. That's important, especially now these days. I guess the sexiest thing right now is someone who's going to therapy. It's the new sexy, which is awesome. You know, people are embracing being more emotional intelligent. And, you know, like I said, open-mindedness and having your heart open to finding love. You know, you either have your light on or you have your light off. Where did I just hear that? Might have been Sex in the City. I don't know. But, you know, you turn your light on and it's like, ooh, I'm ready to find someone. You know, but sometimes you don't have your light on. Maybe you need help with that, you know. And also a good client is someone who, you know, a lot of people like to say, oh, I'm not going to date someone who's has baggage. And these people are middle-aged. I'm like, I'm sorry, but if you don't have baggage by now, you aren't living life right.
That's
It's
right.
how
Who doesn't
deal
have
with
baggage?
baggage and we move forward and we try to learn something from it and move forward in a positive, open-minded way.
Yeah.
You know?
That's right. That's right.
We all got baggage. I'll tell
We
you.
all have
Right?
baggage.
I've been in therapy my whole life, and on both sides, I've been on the couch and I've been in the chair therapizing, and I'm always working on myself, always striving to bring my best self forward, and having to learn sometimes how to do that, even at this age.
And don't you want to meet someone that's doing the work? Like, isn't that like the key? Like, you know, I want to meet someone that's doing the work. I want to know that they recognize that there's work to be done and they're all for doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, because none of us are perfect, you know, and sometimes we don't deal with things correctly, things in relationships and life. And, you know, just being able to see that and to see having empathy for other people and to see their other side, you know, and being able to understand where they're coming from, you know, that's important.
And not appearing perfect, right? Showing that you have some vulnerability and imperfection, because to appear perfect right off the bat, it's like if you're striving for perfection, then you set yourself up for failure. You set that person up and yourself up for disappointment. Why not be open and honest? I mean, I don't know on the first date that you want to overly share, but like at least show vulnerability a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, another analogy, it's like an onion. You know, you don't want to peel the onion right away, but, you know, you peel it a little bit at a time. And then, you know, you can grow, your relationship can grow from that. Because if you just, you know, you go on and on about your life and this happened and that happened on the first or second date, that just people, you know, you're going to freak people out.
Yeah. The dump. That's what I call it. The dump. You go in with the dump.
Spilling.
Yeah.
Lots of spilling happened on that date. Let's try to rein it in.
Exactly.
But you know, as matchmakers, we are here for them for that. You know, getting the feedback and speaking to them after the dates and the date after the date and seeing, you know, of course the story is always somewhere in between. But, you know, being able to decipher that and say, you know, maybe next time, let's try this.
But doesn't the client need to be open to receiving that feedback? That's the thing. It's like, I think many of our clients are very successful, high achieving, running companies, you know, educated. They feel they're pretty self-possessed, and they feel like they're rocking it all over the place. And then when we come in and we're sort of helping them look at areas maybe they're struggling in a little bit, and sometimes they're not as receptive. So I know as a matchmaker, that's been challenging for me at times with my clientele. And like, I don't know how the two of you feel, but it's just, that can be a hard one.
Yeah, I agree. I always say this too, you know, they have everything else going for them. This one small piece but it impacts the overall picture that's not together. And this is where they need our help. Yeah.
I like to call that the whipped cream and cherry on top. You got your cake or your cupcake, but you're missing that whipped cream and cherry on top that really puts it all together and makes it special.
So then, Paula, how do you manage client expectations? And, what are some tidbits that you could give, some jewels that you could give people that are interested in hiring a matchmaker?
That can be tough. I try to, all the way through the process, the sales process and things like that, telling them that, this is what I can do. And, there are things I can't do because people do assume we're a higher end service. We're worth what we get paid. And it's just hard because I think sometimes they think that, I'm hiring a matchmaker, they're gonna, make this person for me, I'm like 60, I want a 30-year-old with all of the, the stuff. And I'm like, oh, maybe we could do that, but she may not want you for you. And you have to accept that.
And
know the game you're playing, right?
Sometimes we as matchmakers have to accept that even though we know the compatibility is probably not there, it's less likely that there's going to be longevity with like a 30-40 year age gap. But if that's what our clients want, all we can do is warn them of that and say, okay, we're going to do the best we can to match you, but just know there are challenges with that.
Yeah, and whatever works for you works for you. I don't think it's the best kind of relationship to have, but if it's a mutual agreement and it benefits them both, go ahead, you be you, but I don't know if it has longevity to it, but who am I to say, I guess.
What about, yeah, go for it,
yeah,
Denise.
go ahead. I was going to say, but that's not the typical, that situation is not the typical type of arrangement that people come to you for, right?
No,
it
is.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it isn't typical. But of course, as matchmakers, we're in a network of matchmakers. We see it all the time.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
So what about a client that says to you, hey, I want, find me a 6-foot knockout, gorgeous person who's fit, athletic, charismatic, educated, successful, and they themselves don't exactly got it all going on, right? They may not be fit. They may not be taking care of themselves physically. They may not be stylish. How do you, like sometimes we've got to give them a tough talk about that because, right? So,
it's like a come to reality kind of thing, and I actually turn down more people that I take on as clients because if somebody just has unrealistic expectations and, there's no way that they're going to listen to anything else, I'm not going to be happy in the relationship with the client and they're not going to be happy in our relationship. And I want everybody to be happy and, 75% of the time.
Yeah. I think you nailed that because I think the first relationship is with the matchmaker. And then the matchmaker is helping you get into the best relationship of your life. But that first relationship is with us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, I don't understand why people don't realize, like, you should probably be nice to your matchmaker.
Yes. Yes. So this is what I mean.
Indeed.
Helping folks who want to hire a matchmaker understand how they can be successful on the journey with us. Like, it's important to show appreciation and gratitude and respect. That's another one, respect to their matchmaker. Because if we feel disrespected, how are we going to be motivated and excited about presenting our client to a potential match? It's hard, right? It makes our job harder. And it impacts the level of success, I think, for myself when I'm working with a really difficult client that is very demanding and lacking appreciation for the hard work.
One, like, if you're going to match him with someone, like how he's going to treat her, if he's treating you like that. And it does make it harder to match them because, you know, we're like your wing person. We are out there talking to you up. You know, he's a great guy. You gotta meet him. You know, telling people all about him, and it does make it hard.
He's kind, he's considerate, he's this or she's that, and then they show up like at you, you know, with all that aggression. You're like, oh, yeah, what
Well,
do I
it's
do with
hard to,
this?
right? It's hard to present them that way because we're not
Yeah,
experiencing them as kind or gracious
or gracious.
considerate. So yeah, I mean, I think again, there a lot of folks just don't have experience working with a matchmaker, and a lot of our clientele too, I think, is used to hiring people, hiring services for, you know, to serve them, whether it be any kind of, you know, to help streamline their life. They're busy, so we're just one other service that sometimes they take for granted and don't realize that we're really there to support them and want them to be successful. But we can't be successful without them believing in us and respecting what we do and knowing that we're in it for the right reasons, that our intention is actually help them find love and to live happier, healthier lives. So
Yeah.
they got to do their part. Basically, we can only do so much as matchmakers and be that conduit, but they've got to bring their best self forward too. So
Yes.
And,
You know,
and
anymore it's about, I'm sorry, anymore
no,
it's
go
about
ahead.
yourself. You know,
Yeah.
you have to market yourself in a way, and that may sound cold, but it's the truth. Especially, you know, like on the apps, you got like what, a tenth of a second before someone swipes on you, you know. And
Yeah.
and I think, you know, getting back to the apps, I think that people have become desensitized to looking at these pictures and these profiles, and they just think they're like addicted to the quantity. You know, it's like it's an addiction. And
I think
you
it's
know,
more like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's speed through them.
Swipe
No,
left,
no,
swipe
no, no,
left,
no, no,
swipe
no.
left, swipe left, swipe left, swipe left, swipe left. Yeah, that's right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
yeah, just like how men change channels.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be overwhelming though, too. Like you have so many choices that, or you think it appears that you have so many choices. It gives you like this false sense of, you know, of reality. And then, or it's overwhelming. There's so many, now I do nothing, or there's so many, I do everything. And both of those get like horrible results, right?
Right.
What's your process, Paula? What does it look like? Because I know matchmakers have a different process. Maybe give kind of listeners an idea of what it looks like to work with you and your team.
Well, once someone becomes a client, what we do is, you know, I want to get to know them. I try to meet with, I'm probably one of the only people that meet people in person. Most of my clients are fairly local. I mean, if I can meet them in person, I will, because I want to get an idea of who they are, what they're like, you know, because reading their profile, those are just one dimensional. I want to see it in all dimensions, you know, and I think that's important. You know, we do the background check, you know, it's always nice when it comes back and they're not like a axe murder or anything like that. And it
I've
just,
never had
you know,
that happen.
re-explaining to them, you know, that we already went over in the sales process of how this is going to work. So, you know, then I start combing my database, you know, looking for matches. Although before somebody does become a client, I do look and I make sure I have a good idea of that I have quite a few matches for them already.
Excellent.
But then really delving into these profiles and who these people are. And I show pictures. I'll present someone, and you know, and sometimes it's really getting an idea of, you know, sometimes you don't know until we start getting into it, the weeds of it, of who they are truly looking for. So, and then I, you know, once they choose a few, they're like, oh yes, I think she looks good or he looks good. Then I reach out to the match, and that's when I, you know, tell them about my client and maybe have them answer some questions that maybe the client was asking for some more information and things like that. And then once everybody comes back and we're ready, everyone's in agreement, we made the match. They get contact information. I offer 2 levels of service. It's a preference thing, really, where someone can, I'll give them the contact information. They set up their own dates. I just want the feedback from the dates, and, next steps and everything like that. But there's also a concierge level to it too, where you just have to show up. I make the reservation, I plan it, everybody's in the know and they show up. And I think a big thing also is, and this is a hard thing sometimes to get through your clients' head a little bit, is the texting before they meet.
I say they inevitably screw it up. They're not allowed to text each other before they meet. That is not at Little Gay Book or Little Black Book. That privilege got taken away, let me think, 14 years ago. But say a little bit about that, because it lets people know how to behave and why. Why is that a rationale? Go.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. Like, what is it, for Paula? Why, what were you going to say about the texting? What's the issue with your client and your matches texting before a date?
Well, there's so many, people have different texting styles. Some people like it short and sweet. Some people want to write a book through text. And if you don't align with that, they're like, well, I don't like that person. I'll text. Or you don't know the person, so you start to speak to them over text and you don't hear the inflection in their voice. Mm-hmm. You don't know them. So there's misunderstandings, all sorts of things, reasons why things go sideways. Yeah. And then people come at these texts, they'll read a text and it'll mean something completely different in their mind than it meant to the person that sent it.
Yep. All this room for misinterpretation, misconstruing things, preconceived ideas, misperceptions. It's like, let's just take all of those variables and remove them
out the table. Yeah. Yeah.
What about phone calls?
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask. What about phone calls? Yeah.
Well, I do, if we're giving out contact information, I'm rethinking that whole thing,
Yeah.
But, I encourage them to get on the phone. At least you can hear the person's voice, but don't overdo it. Get on the phone. How you doing? Paula told me great things about you. I can't wait to meet you. Would you rather do this or this? Give them 2 choices and make the date, confirm the date the day before or the day of the date and go on the date and see where it goes.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like you have some protocols for them to follow to set up the date. Can you share more about that? Like, okay, so phone conversation, keep it short and sweet, pick the 2 things. What else?
Be ready for the date. Everyone gets nervous and I will talk to them before the date, to alleviate some of those nerves. And, I'll suggest books and meditations and things like that to get them in the groove, and as far as like setting them up, since I work with heterosexual people, I have the guy reach out to the woman first, no matter who's the client. So I just think sometimes we do need to go back to a little bit of basics. The guy reaches out first, makes the plans, takes, initiative and makes the plans for the date. Not that they always have to do that once a relationship has bloomed, but I think it's smart, for the most part.
Do you ever have clients that are kind of feminist females that are like, oh no, I'd like to make the first contact? Does that ever happen? Because we're also in a different part of the country. I am than you. I'm in the Bay Area in Northern California. Very progressive, very liberal. So has that happened for you?
No, it hasn't. And, I've worked with what I feel like my alpha females want is that, they have to be strong and powerful, at work, in the boardroom and everywhere else, but they want to feel vulnerable in a relationship too. And it would be nice that a guy would, make the decisions, because they make, 100 decisions every day, and just, take care of that for them. And then, you know, and also coaching, you know, your alpha females too, of being able to be vulnerable. We all have to embrace we all have feminine and a masculine side, and we have to embrace both those sides. You know, she has to learn, you know, she's got to be, you know, the alpha female, and you got to be tough. But when it comes to the relationship, there's got to be a little bit of vulnerability there too. And also men need to, you know, embrace their feminine side also, of being open, you know, to communication, and you know, opening up their hearts also.
So it sounds like there needs to be like a yin and yang.
Yeah,
Male,
always.
female, the energy.
And then it switches, right? So it doesn't stay with that one person, you know, it just kind of switches, which is pretty cool.
So you
Good.
allow them to text and phone call with parameters, with guidelines. Here's the ground rules. Keep it short and sweet. Don't assume things. Try to pay attention to preconceived ideas. I think those are important points because people don't realize, right? They quickly make a snap judgment, and they're just, you know, they're on the phone. A lot of people don't have good phone skills. And so they come across in a way that they're not. Like if they meet in person, they're going to get a whole different vibe of that person than they would on the phone. So I think setting expectations and letting them know about those pitfalls is crucial. I just don't let my clients do any of that. I just remove that completely. But I appreciate that. I mean, for them, it's very awkward initially, especially new clients that I'm working with, because they're like, wait a minute, is this a blind date, Dr. Frankie? You're just sat blind. Like, how am I even going to know what this person looks? Because we don't show photos either. So it's a lot to ask of a client. No photos and no connecting before you go on your first date. Basically, you need to trust us completely. So it's hard. It's a hard ask, I think, sometimes. So I get why I get why you would give them more, I don't know if it's agency, just more, you know, more responsibility in the process, especially in the beginning.
I have actually, I had a client that he's a really, really good guy, but he just texted too much. I warned him of it. And I said, nope, we're changing the rules now. You're not getting contact information. We're going concierge on you. We didn't pay for that, but that's what we're doing. You're going to show up to the restaurant and meet this person. And actually, the last time I did that, he put his account on hold and he doesn't want to meet anybody else.
Interesting. What do you make of that?
Well, it could be, you know, part of it could be the not texting thing, and part of it could be it just was the right person too. But, you know, I can't take all the credit for that, of course, but
right.
you know.
Yeah. I give you the credit. I think that that's what did it. It probably, you know, sometimes when you're texting and you're talking before, you build up this expectation of who this person is before you meet them. And then the disappointment is it's not who you built that person up to be. So when you take those things out of it, now they both show up and they're present and in the moment. Yeah. And you have to kind of just be open and trust the process. So good for you.
Yeah.
Put your foot down.
Yeah. It also shows that you're really there to help people find love. Like you're willing to do the extra work. He didn't sign on for that service, that VIP service. And you're like, you know what, you need this, and I'm going to give it to you complimentary because I want you to be successful.
Yeah. You know, we're only as successful as our clients, you know.
That's so true. Very true.
And I always say that there's nothing in life that feels more euphoric and exciting than when I successfully match my clients. Like I can't even, it's just, right. I'm sure you all can relate. It's hard to describe.
Yeah. I'm waiting for some feedback from a date that happened this weekend, and I'm just like, it's the best. It's the best.
I know. You know, sometimes I have to temper my excitement. You know, I get too excited. I'm like, oh, I don't want to get too excited because I don't want them to, you know, freak them out. You know.
I know they don't realize that we're waiting there so impatiently to get the feedback. Like at our company, we've got a feedback form process. And we're just, we give them 24 hours. And sometimes they're just doing they're living, like 24 hours is not a lot of time after the date. So they forget. And I'm
Yeah.
already hitting them up like,
Yep.
hey, I'm waiting here.
I'm waiting.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's exciting.
Yeah. So Paula, anything else that like you want to share that we didn't ask you that you feel like would be helpful for potential clients to know about Bloom? Anything you want to share in general about
Well,
matchmaking?
in general with matchmaking, don't be afraid to hire a matchmaker. Some people, they're like, gosh, I'm not, I find all kinds of dates. I don't need a matchmaker. And, you know, but matchmaking is something that's becoming more and more accepted all across the world because people are looking for that help. And there's nothing wrong with looking for the help. If you think about it, 15 years ago or so, people were ashamed to say they met people online. But now that's pretty much how people meet. There's no shame in that. So there's no shame in hiring a matchmaker. Reach out to your local matchmakers or, reach out to us, and we can always, if you're not a right fit to be our client, we know someone who is.
And are you just working with folks in Virginia or nationally?
I'm pretty much, I'd like to stick it to like Virginia, the DMV area, like DC, Northern Virginia, Baltimore. At this point, I did set up the business to be something that could grow, and it's not location centric. So at some point we may grow. I'm also starting to help autistic people too, which I'm very excited about that. I have started a collaboration and partnership with an autism coach. You might know Jeremy and Alana, his wife. So what they do is they help people on the spectrum be, trying to be more social, because it can be hard for people and how to date and things like that. So what we're doing, we're going to work together where they coach them, and then I try to match them and coach them also, where we just work together to help people.
That's amazing. That is incredible. Yeah, and it's such an underserved population, Paula. Spot on. I do remember working with a couple of people on the spectrum and having to outsource and reach out to other people to help. And it was a big challenge. It took a while, but I did it. So yeah, I'm so happy to hear that. I didn't know that. Yeah, good. So how do people find you? They want to hire Paula as a matchmaker. Give us your information. Share.
Sure. My website is bloommatchmaking.com. You can get on my website. You can read all about me. You can make an appointment with me. You can fill out your profile. I have a free database. Anyone can join my database for free. If you're a match for a client, I reach out to you and, hopefully make the match, do a background check and everything like that. And it's private too. I think a lot of people appreciate the fact that, once you get in a matchmaker's database, your information is completely private, and we don't share it unless you approve, you approve us sharing your information. So yeah, and people can give me a call, 804-244-1398. I love to talk to people and tell them all about what I do and see if I can help them.
What about
I think you
social
should.
media?
Yeah.
Can they follow you? Do you have Instagram? Do you have TikTok?
Oh yeah. I got all the stuff. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
How?
Just under Bloom Matchmaking.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Such a pleasure. I loved hearing. I mean, this is my first time meeting you. So it's such a pleasure to meet you and to hear all about your process and, how clients can find you and what they should consider about working with you and just working with matchmakers in general. It's interesting. It's fun. Yeah.
It's fun. I hope to see you maybe at a conference sometime.
Yes. I'm planning on one. I think I'm going to Cancun in November for the first time.
I'll be there.
Very cool. So I'll get to meet you in person. Believe it or not, in my 15 years of being a CEO of matchmaking firm, I have never been to a love conference or a matchmaking conference. Crazy. So I can't wait to meet other amazing matchmakers. And there's a lot of collaboration, which is another piece, right? A lot of collaboration that happens where we help support each other. So it just creates much more opportunity for us to make successful connections because we work together.
Right.
So
Yeah.
true.
That's what it is. It's about connections and networking. It's a great time. It's like, you're with your people, they understand, and, everyone for the most part is very helpful. They're willing to give advice and share advice because we all have different ideas, different things work for different people. And I love that conference.
Yeah, so do I. So do I. Do you remember that's where we met? I sat right next
did
to you.
we?
Yeah, I sat next to you at that 2020 conference in New York.
Oh God, no.
You didn't remember that,
There's
huh?
like pre-COVID and post-COVID.
That's right. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
And the pandemic, right? That's like a whole time warp. That in itself, that's amazing that you started your business like right around the pandemic, right before. Kudos to you.
Yeah. I was in New York when, in March 2020 when it all hit the fan.
And we had sanitizers. So here was the funny thing. We had sanitizers all on the tables, like they set us up. And then like we had no idea, right? Because and everyone was sanitizing. We were instructed to like bump elbows, not to shake hands. And, so we were all being cautious, but we had no idea what was coming down the pike. No idea.
I'm so glad we all survived and we get to be here together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Paula, such a pleasure.
Such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Big hug.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll have you on again at some point because we'll be doing this for a while. I'm very, very excited.
Let me know if you need some more guinea pigs or people. I think you guys know everybody, but I know people that are more like like May's really good. Do you guys know May?
I do know May. Yeah.
May likes to do podcasts.
Connect with May. We want all the matchmakers on. We want them to share all of their specialties and what the challenges are, and so that we can help folks get involved and consider matchmakers as an option because we're making it happen. So
yeah.
All right.
So a business portion, edit. Let me know once it's done or whatever, or what you want me to do to promote it, because I'll share it with all my stuff. And that's.
Let me stop the recording. Hold on one sec. Hold on.
Perfect.
Then we can talk about it.